Got it wrong on a number of levels, from the process that I led to the decision that I reached. But now I will get it right and do whatever is necessary to.
Hey, big guy. What's going on? How you doing? Hey, look. You doing all right? You gotta let my brother have his way in the league. Yeah, you gotta. I'm worried about your pop. So, how you doing? What you worried about him for?
Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner himself, is stepping into territory we've never seen before, and the player he's defending is none other than Shedeur Sanders. Let that sink in for a second. The head of the entire National Football League is no longer staying neutral, no longer sitting quietly in the background, and no longer pretending not to see what's been happening. He's taking action, and he's calling it exactly what it is: a coordinated campaign of bias and hostility coming from parts of the media. This is unprecedented. We are talking about Roger Goodell, the most powerful executive in professional football, stepping in to protect a young quarterback from what he views as outright media persecution. That alone should tell you how serious this situation has become. Commissioners don't do this lightly.
11 practices, if I remember correctly. He's been starting against he's been playing against the third unit. He's fourth on the depth chart. And then suddenly you throw him into the start lineup, and he hasn't had any reps with the first team at all.
They don't insert themselves into media narratives unless something is deeply wrong. And according to Goodell, something is very wrong here. Goodell has been watching closely, and sources say he is not pleased with what he's seeing. This isn't just a handful of negative headlines or a couple of loud voices on TV panels. This is bigger than that, much bigger. What the commissioner sees is a pattern, a repeated cycle where Shedeur Sanders shows progress, flashes potential, makes the right reads, delivers big throws, and then suddenly the conversation shifts, the focus changes. The tone turns hostile. The criticism stops being football-related and becomes personal. That's where the line was crossed.
Hey, super headlines, but it didn't. It said NFL announced punishment decision for Shedeur Sanders.
Goodell isn't responding to criticism of play. He's responding to what he believes is a systematic effort to undermine confidence, distort public perception, and sabotage a quarterback's credibility before he's even had a real chance to grow. And here's what really pushed this over the edge. According to league insiders, Goodell has been reviewing specific games, specific drives, and specific moments where Sanders was playing well, only for things to spiral after questionable contact. Late hits that went unflagged, unnecessary roughness calls that never came, defenders taking shots they wouldn't dare take against more protected quarterbacks. And Goodell isn't just looking at the hits themselves. He's looking at what happens afterward, how those moments get framed, how narratives get pushed, how certain media voices immediately jump to questioning toughness, leadership, or readiness, instead of asking why the protection wasn't there in the first place.
Everybody's intact for next season, defensively. But you got to score points. And the Browns are a joke offensively. And we don't yet know about Sanders, so what do you do with that? Do you keep him as your starter next year? Do you go into the draft and try to get a quarterback? There's no way they're going to get Mendoza. Vegas, that's a lock that Mendoza's going to Las Vegas.
That's where it gets uncomfortable for a lot of people, because Goodell is reportedly examining the entire ecosystem surrounding these situations. Media personalities, on-field enforcement, commentary framing, even officiating trends. The allegation isn't just that Sanders was hit, it's that there was no urgency to stop it, no accountability afterward. And then conveniently, the same talking points show up everywhere about him being overrated, about his last name carrying him, about him not being built for the league. Goodell is making one thing absolutely clear. That ends now. The NFL will not allow a young quarterback to be boxed into a false narrative while external factors are ignored. This league markets opportunity, fairness, and merit.
I know you've been getting a lot of updates, but we obviously just completed our first meeting in person, our annual meeting in 3 years.
And when that promise gets compromised, especially in such a visible way, the commissioner believes intervention is required. Now, let's be real. Roger Goodell has faced storms before. He's handled league-shaking scandals. He's navigated political firestorms, labor disputes, concussion lawsuits, franchise relocations, ownership chaos, and moments that threaten the league's credibility on a national scale. He's seen it all, but this situation hits differently. This isn't about legal exposure or brand damage. This is about integrity. It's about whether the league truly protects its players equally. It's about whether talent is judged on performance or perception. And it's about confronting a culture that still, even now, places unnecessary barriers in front of a certain quarterbacks. Goodell sees what's happening to Shedeur Sanders as a warning sign. Not just about one player, but about the league as a whole, and this time he's not looking away. He's stepping in, and the message is loud and unmistakable. This situation goes far deeper than one quarterback or one team. At its core, this is about stereotypes. It's about assumptions that have followed black quarterbacks for generations. It's about the unspoken double standards that still exist in professional football.
You can well imagine from my standpoint, this is no time to get complacent. We have a lot of work to still do.
Where some players are allowed room to grow, while others are expected to be flawless from day one. And most of all, it's about the reality that certain quarterbacks have to be twice as good just to receive half the recognition. That's the reality Roger Goodell is confronting head-on. This isn't just about a bad headline or unfair criticism. This is about narratives that get pushed regardless of what actually happens on the field. A completion becomes system-driven. A mistake becomes proof he isn't ready. A win gets minimized while a loss gets magnified. And for Goodell, that pattern is no longer ignorable. From the commissioner's perspective, this is a systemic issue. One that the NFL can't keep pretending is incidental or accidental. He's not just talking about protecting Shedeur Sanders as an individual. He's talking about forcing the league to confront a culture that still evaluates quarterbacks through different lenses, depending on who they are and where they come from. He wants a league where players succeed or fail based on performance, preparation, and execution. Not on perception, not on last names, not on outdated stereotypes. According to multiple reports, Goodell has already taken action behind the scenes. He has been in direct contact with the Cleveland Browns organization, and his message was anything but subtle. Enough is enough. The way Shedeur Sanders has been handled, discussed, and positioned will not continue. This wasn't framed as a suggestion or a polite request. This was a mandate from the commissioner himself. And teams that don't align with that message should fully expect consequences. For Goodell, this moment is bigger than football. It sits at the intersection of race, opportunity, accountability, and leadership.
But also, Jason Lloyd, we all know him, true hater of Shedeur Sanders, writer for The Athletic, contributor to UCSS on a 2 to 3 times on a week basis with my boy G. Bush. But we all know Jason Lloyd is a hater of Shedeur Sanders.
He understands that the black community has long been the backbone of the NFL's success. Black players, black coaches, black culture, black fans. The league doesn't thrive without them. Yet for decades, that same community has also faced systemic barriers, limited opportunities at leadership positions, and harsher scrutiny on the field. Goodell knows that words alone don't fix that. Statements don't fix that. Social media posts don't fix that. If the NFL truly believes in equality and fairness, then action has to follow. That's exactly why this situation matters so much. This is the commissioner making it clear that the league's values aren't just slogans. They're expectations. And now, here's where things escalate even further. According to sources close to the situation, Goodell was not only unhappy with how Shedeur Sanders was treated. He allegedly viewed it as unacceptable at the coaching level. Reports suggest that Goodell himself was a driving force behind wanting Kevin Stefanski out of Cleveland. And yes, that's as explosive as it sounds. The reason? Goodell reportedly believes Stefanski showed clear bias in how he handled Sanders. That includes preparation, trust, and opportunity. This is massive. We're talking about the commissioner of the NFL actively intervening because he felt a head coach failed in his responsibility to develop and support a quarterback fairly. Let's break this down because it matters. Shedeur Sanders was not given adequate practice reps. That's not debatable. That's coaching fundamentals. Quarterback development 101. If you want a young quarterback to succeed, you give him reps. You give him meaningful work with the first team. You let him build chemistry with receivers. You allow him to learn the playbook at game speed. You don't stunt that growth and then criticize the results. Without reps, timing suffers. Confidence suffers. Decision-making slows down.
He still doesn't know what he's looking at. He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. This isn't me saying this. I'm not an NFL. I've never claimed to be an NFL coach. This is people in that building will tell me he still doesn't know how to flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. He doesn't know what he's looking at. He can only throw to wide open receivers. He doesn't make tight window throws. He doesn't throw guys open. This is not the answer. These last 2 weeks were the opportunity coming off the Titans game to show that he can be the guy against playoff contenders. and he has not lived up to it. This is not it.
And then the same voices turn around and say the quarterback isn't ready. That cycle is exactly what Goodell is calling out. You can't set a player up to struggle and then use the struggle as justification to bury him. From Goodell's point of view, what happened in Cleveland wasn't just poor coaching. It was a failure of leadership. And when leadership fails in a way that reinforces harmful patterns, the league steps in. That's where this situation stands now. That's how quarterbacks are supposed to get better, through real reps, real trust, and real opportunities. And despite showing flashes of brilliance every time he actually got a chance, despite making plays that clearly showed why he was once viewed as a top quarterback prospect, Shedeur Sanders was never given a legitimate runway to prove himself. Not once, not consistently, not fairly. He would step into limited opportunities and deliver. A perfectly placed ball into a tight window. A clean pre-snap read that beat the defense before the snap even happened. Poise under pressure that you simply cannot coach. These are traits teams spend years trying to find in quarterbacks, traits you build franchises around. And yet every time Shedeur showed them, the response was the same. Back to the scout team. Time and time again, Kevin Stefanski sent him right back to football purgatory, the scout team. And make no mistake, that's exactly what it is. The scout team is not where future franchise quarterbacks are developed. It's not where you build chemistry. It's not where you invest meaningful time. It's where players go to mimic the opposing team, run simplified looks, and disappear from serious evaluation. For those who don't understand how NFL practices work, the scout team exists to prepare starters for Sunday. That's it. You're not running the full playbook. You're not working through progression reads. You're not developing timing with starting receivers. You're playing a role, and when a quarterback gets stuck there, it's a message, a loud one. It says, "We're not serious about you." This had nothing to do with performance, nothing to do with readiness, nothing to do with football. This was bias, plain and simple. And Roger Goodell saw it immediately. He recognized that Shedeur was being put in a position designed to fail, denied the same opportunities other quarterbacks in similar situations routinely receive without hesitation. And once that pattern became undeniable, everything clicked. That's when it became clear this wasn't accidental. This wasn't coincidence. Something else was driving these decisions. And that's exactly why Goodell didn't stop at coaching. He turned his attention to the media landscape surrounding Shedeur Sanders. And what he saw there only confirmed his concerns. From day one, media personalities locked in on a narrative and refused to let it go. Even when Shedeur went out and proved them wrong on the field, the goalposts kept moving. A strong game? They found something negative. A flawless throw? They nitpicked his mechanics. Leadership moments? Suddenly he was arrogant. Confidence reframed as entitlement. There was no winning because the verdict had already been decided. That's not analysis. That's agenda-driven coverage. And Goodell is going directly at it now, because when media criticism stops being about football and turns into personal attacks, it becomes harmful, especially for a young quarterback trying to establish himself in the league. Things reached an ugly level, a disturbing one. People like Tony Grossi openly mock Shedeur's injury. Let that sink in. A veteran media figure, someone who claims professionalism, ridiculing a player for getting hurt. That's not journalism, that's not commentary, that's cruelty. Then there's Mary Kay Cabot, who took an off-field traffic ticket and inflated it into a full-blown controversy, as if a minor, routine incident somehow defined a quarterback's character or leadership. Meanwhile, similar situations involving other players barely register as footnotes. That double standard is exactly what Goodell is calling out. When a young quarterback can't make a throw without it being dissected under a microscope, can't show emotion without being labeled, and can't even get injured without being mocked, something is broken. And the commissioner knows it. This isn't about silencing criticism. It's about restoring fairness. It's about holding media members accountable to the same standards they demand from players. And it's about protecting the integrity of the league itself. Because if the NFL allows this kind of treatment to continue unchecked, it sends a dangerous message. Not just to Shedeur Sanders, but to every young quarterback watching from the sidelines. And Roger Goodell is making one thing crystal clear. Trying to paint Shedeur Sanders as some kind of problem child was always a reach. A weak one at that. What should have been treated as a routine, minor infraction, something that happens to everyday people across the country, was blown up into a full-blown character assassination. Suddenly it wasn't about football anymore. It became about maturity, about leadership, about whether he was ready for the NFL. And that's exactly how you know this was never about the incident itself. Because if it were anyone else, it wouldn't have even made headlines. It would have been a footnote, a non-story. But because it was Shedeur Sanders, it became fuel. Fuel for a narrative that certain media voices were already desperate to push. That's how this works. You take something small, twist it, magnify it, and use it to reinforce an image you already decided on long before the facts ever mattered. And then there's Jason Lloyd, who completely crossed the line, calling for the Cleveland Browns to essentially sabotage Shedeur by removing him from the team altogether. Let's be clear about this. Not because of poor performance, not because of lack of effort, not because of stagnation or regression, but seemingly because of who he is, the attention he draws, and the spotlight that follows him. That's not journalism. That's not analysis. That's not even opinion rooted in football logic. That's agenda-driven commentary. And Roger Goodell sees it exactly for what it is, a coordinated attempt to push a player out before he ever gets a fair chance to establish himself. And this time, the commissioner is not letting it slide. Goodell understands how dangerous this becomes if left unchecked. When media narratives dictate roster decisions, when public pressure replaces internal evaluation, and when talented players are labeled beyond repair before their careers even begin, the integrity of the league suffers. And that's why this moment matters so much. There are two major reasons Goodell is taking such a hard stance here. First, Shedeur Sanders is one of the most polarizing and beloved young quarterbacks in the league among fans. Whether people want to admit it or not, his presence draws attention. His games get watched. His development gets followed. Fans see the talent. They see the confidence. They see the growth potential. And they're rooting for him. When Shedeur steps on the field, eyes are on him. That's not hype. That's reality. And Goodell knows the league benefits when exciting, talented players are given the chance to grow instead of being buried under manufactured controversy. But the second reason is even bigger. Roger Goodell does not want the media running the NFL. He's seen this movie before. He's watched how unchecked narratives can spiral, how agendas can replace truth, how young players can be broken down mentally before they ever get a legitimate opportunity to succeed. And he's not allowing that to happen again. This isn't about silencing criticism. It's about restoring balance. It's about ensuring that evaluation is rooted in football, not bias. It's about protecting the league from becoming hostage to loud voices that profit off controversy instead of accountability. So let's call it what it is. Roger Goodell is going to war for Shedeur Sanders. He's pushing back against media figures, coaching decisions, and systemic patterns that he believes unfairly targeted a young quarterback. And whether people like it or not, that message has been sent from the very top. The league is watching. The media is on notice. And the days of tearing down talent before it ever gets a fair shot may finally be coming to an end. So what do you think about all of this? Is Goodell right to step in? Has Shedeur Sanders been unfairly targeted? Or is this long overdue accountability for how narratives are shaped in the NFL? Until next time, peace.